On tonight's show, we'll do an in-depth buy, sell, hold, going through a ton of shortstops and first basemen and who'd you rather. We'll also talk about our hometown histories and how to use fandom to your advantage. That's all coming up next on Beat the Shift. And welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruven Guy. What's going on, Ruven?
Not much. How are you doing today?
I'm slightly hoarse again. Back to this, man. Not terrible, though. Not terrible. But playing so much softball, I have thrown 3 consecutive shutouts now. We won our semifinals. I pitched a no-hitter. Not just a no-hitter, but no-hitter, no walks. And everyone kept asking me, what do you mean no-hitter? No hits, no walks. That's called a perfect game. Like, no, there was 2 errors. But no hits, no walks. We won. We blew the other team out. Finals are this Thursday. And in my Sunday league, 2 shutouts. We are just steamrolling. I am on a hot streak, which is awesome. Just hope it continues all summer long. How about you, Ruvain? What's going on?
Your team sounds like my son's baseball team. My son's baseball team is actually in the championship league. In the championship game, they're playing at Yogi Berra Stadium in New Jersey. And I'm really excited about it. It's coming up this week, and I think I'm more nervous than he is.
Yeah, that's right. I'm wishing your son and you guys good luck. As some of the audience knows, my kid is also in that league, and I'm actually the coach of my kid's high school team as well. But our team is pretty bad, or at least not. I shouldn't say my team is bad. How can I do that to my team? My team is good, but your team is quite a lot better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they're better. But listen, you didn't finish in last place in your division, so you're not that bad.
No, we didn't finish in last place. But, hey, there you go. And I had a good week. I beat the General Ian Khan in Tout Wars.
You're going to take Cedric Mullins III?
Wow.
Came back. I had to pick up 2 pitchers in the last day, and I beat him by, 2 strikeouts. I had Nady Eovaldi go in the last game. I had, 5 or 6 starters go in the last day to just nick him. And the General goes down to Ariel Cohen. I'm now in 5th place, climbing up the ladder in the Tout Wars Champions League.
Comebacks seem to be the New York type of thing these days now.
Yeah, congrats to our New York Knicks who won the championship. I watched those games. That was really exciting, and it's almost like you knew they're down, but somehow they found a way.
And going to the watch parties, I went to a couple of them. Wow, it's something. It's unbelievable. It's almost as good as going to the game.
That's crazy. Well, we've got a great show. We're going to talk a little bit more about our teams from home in our hometown episode. Welcome back to the show, Sara Sanchez. What's going on, Sara?
Hey, y'all. And yeah, congrats to the Knicks. Those were super fun games to watch from afar. It reminded me a little bit of the energy and environment around Chicago and Wrigley when the Cubs won 10 years ago. So definitely could feel that through the TV. Those watch parties looked amazing.
Yes,
yeah.
They were.
Speaking of the Cubs, I know you're a Cubs fan, and it's our hometown episode. We're going to talk a little bit about our home teams and some strategy bias and things like that. First of all, how did you start rooting for the Cubs? What's your story?
Well, it's the story millions of Cubs fans have, because if you grew up in a place without a baseball team back in the 1980s and 1990s, there were only a couple of teams that you could see every game. So you could see, at least where I grew up in rural Utah, you could see the Cubs on WGN, you could see the Braves on TBS, and that was it. You'd get the game of the week, or you'd get something on ESPN when that came around. But really, if you wanted to follow the ins and outs of the entire season, you were pretty limited to the Cubs or the Braves. And so I picked the Cubs. The first Cubs game I remember seeing, I was very little, but the first Cubs game I remember seeing was the Sandberg game. And my dad asked me who I was cheering for, and I said the guy who keeps hitting home runs, so it was the Cubs. And I'm stubborn, so I never changed my mind. I've been a Cubs fan since that moment on, but I used to record the games on our old VHS recorder, and I would run home from the bus stop and run downstairs and not talk to anybody because I didn't want anybody to tell me what had happened. I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't want to know. I just wanted to start from the beginning and go. And the Cubs games actually started during the school year while I was still in school. So they were ending right about the time I got home from school. So that's kind of my story. And, of course, I then got lucky and moved to Chicago as an adult. So I live about an 8-minute walk from Wrigley Field, and I go to Cubs games all the time, which has been kind of the coolest thing in my life.
Oh, that's amazing. Ruvain, I know that your mom is a Yankees fan, so how the heck did you become the Mets fan?
Well, she started off as a Mets fan. She actually went to the
Oh,
'69 World Series, and she became a Yankees fan when the Mets were not that great, and this guy named Derek Jeter came along. So she's a Johnny come lately being a Yankee fan. But I mean, I started becoming a Mets fan because in 1986, just happens to be 1986, I got my first radio. It was a Fisher Price blue and white radio that I kept under my pillow, and there was a new sports radio station that just came out that year, and I was listening to it, and I always listened to it every day, and at night they had the Mets games on, so I listened to the Mets games every night. Gary Cohen, Bob Murphy, they were always telecasting it. They were always describing it, and I love the way that they described it. And I just kept listening, kept listening, kept listening. And used to watch them on Channel 9. Used to watch them when they got to the World Series that year. I remember staying up and watching the ball go through Bill Buckner's legs. That was like unbelievable. It was just that, and because of the fact that they won that year, yes, I guess I was a bandwagoner, but I mean, I was 6 years old at the time. Leave me alone.
well, I don't remember. I'm a little bit younger than you. I don't remember actually watching that series, but my dad did take me to the Mets '86 World Series. So I was actually there. Sorry, at the parade. I was at the parade after they won. So there you go. I mean, my dad grew up a New York Giants fan. Willie Mays was his favorite player. I mean, he would, it was one of those old school. He would argue with his friend, "Oh, Mays is better," and his friend was a Yankee fan. "No, Mantle was better. No, Mays is better." Of course, Mays was better than Mantle, but and actually, they still kept it up. I know every year on Willie Mays' birthday, which is May 6th, his friend who moved to Toronto would call him up and argue more that Mantle is better than Mays, and so on and so forth. Of course, Willie Mays died 2 years ago. Actually, be 2 years ago this week, June 18th. So my dad was the old New York Giants fan, and I mean he always tells me that 1954 was the greatest year in his life. He moved to Queens. The Giants won the World Series, and of course, shortly after they moved to California. And then when the Mets came as the new NL team, that's who we rooted for, and so that sort of stuck with me. And he used to take us to 6-7 Met games a year, and his favorite player was Howard Johnson of the '80s, which we actually had on the show, which was really cool, and that stayed with me. I actually started rooting for the Colorado Rockies when they first started. I thought they were cool. I thought it was nice to root for a new team, and they were amazing. They had a couple players with 40 homers on one year. I remember that year when one of the first years they came up, they made the playoffs in the third year, and but that faded in college, and I'm a big Mets fan now as well.
And for better or worse, we've indoctrinated our kids into liking these same teams also, so they're used to all the heartache.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, do you guys know who Russ Hodges is? Russ Hodges?
No.
So when the New York Giants moved out to San Francisco, they really didn't have guys go out there and do radio broadcasts away late at night or whatever. So he used to get like ticker tape of, okay, this guy out, this guy single, this guy out. So he used to announce the game on the radio, but he used to make it up completely. He'd be like, "All right, strike one. Oh, there's a high fly ball left field, but it's foul." And he just do that for every single game. And my dad said he used to listen to them, and they were more exciting than the real thing because you were just left in suspense. It was like the greatest thing ever. Anyways, okay, so Sarah, back to hometown rooting. So we'll talk about more strategy, but how do you juggle rooting for your home team and playing fantasy baseball? Because obviously there's going to be players who you have on your fantasy teams that are going to play against the Cubs. Are you rooting for them, against them? Like, how does it work for you?
I mean, I don't really let fantasy impact my cheering interests. I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing. I want, this guy who is not on my team to do well in this moment so that the Cubs can win. However, when there are moments there where it's like it could go either way, like I could be cheering for the Cubs to get a guy out and the guy happens to be on my fantasy team, but they're already up 5 or whatever. Absolutely. I am cheering for, say Jose Ramirez, who's on a bunch of my teams this year, very sad about the hamate bone injury and hoping that he comes back at full strength. But I'm definitely cheering that Jose Ramirez gets a home run in that moment because, the Cubs can win by 4 runs instead of by 5 runs, and that'll be totally fine. In terms of the way that I think about it and focus on it, I'm usually watching the Cubs. I watch baseball, other teams when the Cubs are not on. So it's like a prioritization thing, right? Like I am watching almost all of the Cubs games. Sometimes there's conflicts, like the Cubs are playing right now. So I've got the game on game day while I'm talking to y'all. But but I'm watching all the other teams here and there. The Cubs are my priority though, and I'm always cheering for them.
Yeah, what do you do, Ravine? You're rooting against the Mets no matter what, right?
Well, usually you don't have to do that. It's just it's self-explanatory by how they're playing. Like today, they give up 9 runs by the second inning, and you know what? I hope Spencer Steer does something because I have him on my fantasy team. If the Mets are going to lose, at least let my fantasy players do well. If they're winning, if the Mets are winning, I want them to win 19-18, and I want all my fantasy players to do well. Otherwise, back in the day when we used to get Freddie Freeman every year and he used to play the Braves, I rooted for the Mets. I did not want Freddie Freeman to do well, even though he was on my fantasy team. He just killed the team to the point where I liked him as a fantasy player, but I couldn't stand him when he played the Mets.
I can't believe that I actually sat Eugenio Suarez against the Mets today. It's a grand slam, 6 RBIs, 2 homers. Why did I sit him in Tout Wars this week? Oh, boy, that was bad. But, yeah, no, I'm like you. When I first started playing, I was in, like, one home league, and I would root for my fantasy players, and I'd be so confused. Oh, wait a minute. He just did a 3-run homer against the Mets? Do I cheer? I didn't know what to do. But I'll tell you, though, because I play in so many leagues right now, it doesn't really matter. I have so many players on so many different teams. I don't even look at it. I just root for the Mets, and that's it. I guess the only thing I'll say, though, is if the Mets are out of it, and it's the last 2 weeks in the season, and there's some money on the line, and I need a player to do something, I guess I'll root for that outcome the last week of the season when it doesn't really matter for the Mets. Like I can see myself doing that. But otherwise, it's just you root for your team and, you play your fantasy players. And I don't even think about it. If the Mets are good, if they have a good pitcher, I'm not going to play a hitter against them. Or if if they're not doing good, I'll play the pitchers against them. I'll use the right information as a fantasy analyst should do.
So the question is really the reverse, Ariel. What do you do if your fantasy team is winning, but the Mets need to win to get to the playoff, and the Mets winning directly would make it so you don't win your fantasy league? Like, I think I would root for the Cubs over me winning my fantasy league, but that's a much tougher call.
Didn't we ask this to somebody? I think we asked to somebody of you need this to win the auction championship and $20,000, but it would mean the Mets would lose the World Series. I thought we asked Mark Winokur. That's who it was, and he's like, no, I'll take the Mets making the playoffs any day before I win $15,000 from the NFBC. And I don't know. I think I'd take the 15,000.
I wouldn't. I'd actually go for the Mets because look how long it took for the Knicks to win. It took them 53 years to win their next championship. The Mets haven't won since '86. It's getting up there. They're one of the New York teams that haven't won in the longest amount of time. If they have a chance of getting to the playoffs and they think they have a chance in the playoffs, then yes, I'm gonna root for the Mets but if I think the Mets are not gonna really do that well in the playoffs, like I'm lukewarm on them, like oh yeah they'll make the playoffs, like the Reds last year when they snuck in. I don't think anyone had aspirations that the Reds were going to beat the Dodgers last year. When they get to the playoffs, I didn't think that was going to happen. So, I still think rooting for your home team at that point, if you're going to see something that you haven't seen in so many years, you root for your home team.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy, though, is in regular season. I mean, for me, if it was the Mets winning the World Series and this would be in the World Series, yeah, I'd root for the Mets. Just to make the playoffs, you don't know what's going to happen. $15,000 on the line. I'm a little torn, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know, Sarah. What do you think?
I mean, this is why it's a tough question, right? I think that I would be cheering for the Cubs, but that makes it much more difficult. I am lucky that in my fantasy baseball career, the Cubs making the playoffs has never hinged on a game towards the very end of the season that would have also completely shifted my fantasy baseball fortune. So I hope I don't have to. I hope I don't have to experience that because exactly, it's a much tougher call, right?
I mean, shame on you if you only win your fantasy league by one at bat, and it comes down to the last at bat, right? Win your league outright so you can root for the Cubs and not worry.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I guess that's it. Okay, so let's talk a bit about bias and how to react to that because there is a little bit of strategy come out. But how do you think that rooting for your home team makes you a little bit of a biased owner in Fab, Sarah?
I actually don't think it. I try really hard not to let it. I don't think it does. I do think that I tend to have more players from the NL Central on my team, not because I like them more, I see them more. And so I'm more willing to take a chance on a guy from the NL Central who, like, I'll give a really good example of sort of like a middling type of guy. Colin Ray was somebody that I picked with a lot of my final picks in draft season. Not because I think Colin Ray is a great pitcher, but because I kind of figured he's the sixth starter for the Cubs. He is definitely going to get some starts. There's a non-zero chance they come out of spring training not particularly healthy, and Craig Counsell deploys him really well. So Colin Ray rarely gets into trouble late. If he's in trouble, he is in trouble because he got hammered early in the game. Craig Counsell will pull him in the fifth or sixth inning when he, is starting to get into that trouble and knows him very well. And so I find that my knowledge of the NL Central and watching not just the Cubs, the Brewers, the Reds, the Cardinals, and the Pirates all the time, sometimes gives me a edge on the margins of, oh, actually, I can trust that this guy is going to get more playing time than the analysts say he's going to get because I know how that manager thinks and I see it every day. I find it is extremely helpful on the margins there. And then as far as bias goes, like I try extremely hard not to let my personal preferences bias those decisions. I mean, I am a huge fan of Moises Ballesteros, who is unfortunately struggling a bit right now. I have every confidence that he'll wind up turning it around before the season is over. But he was going earlier in drafts than I wanted him to, and there were UT guys who I liked in drafts who I took earlier. Like I have a lot of Yordan Alvarez this year because I thought he was being picked too late, given what we've seen from him before off the injury last year. And so I don't have a spot on my roster then for Moises Ballesteros because I've already got a UT guy who I took early in Yordan. So I'm just cheering for my favorite player, and he's not on many of my teams. The other thing I'll say about that, and the flip side of that, which really helped me last year, I think there's a lot of question marks for Pete Crow Armstrong, who incidentally is a single away from the cycle in the bottom of the fifth right now. But those question marks led to him falling so much in drafts last season and in auctions that I had a decent amount of PCA on my teams just because people I thought were undervaluing him. And that wound up being extremely helpful when he has a 30-30 season and an all-star campaign.
Right. I mean, Ruvain, do you find yourself in drafts sometimes going the extra buck for a Met?
I'm gonna say sometimes yes, but usually no. Usually I want to stay away from these guys because a lot of times we live in New York. We hear all about the Mets. We hear all about the Yankees as well. So we hear about these teams constantly, and we hear, okay, this person's being hyped up, this person's being hyped up, and sometimes that can get in your head, and you think, oh wait, maybe I should spend the extra dollar. But a lot of times the way the media hypes these players up, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and it's just I don't I don't trust it, and I think there was a point when we had teams together that we made it a plan not to have not to have any players from the Mets because it usually if we are in a home league they're usually overpriced, and even in if you're going to, let's say, an NFBC type league, a lot of these players this is a big market, and they get broadcast on ESPN. You see them, and they get hyped up to the point for the fact that I don't want to spend the extra dollar on them because I am so used to being let down by the Mets that I try to avoid that. But on the flip side, you get, just like Sarah, like you mentioned, seeing the rest of the teams in the National League East like we do. We hear about all the prospects. We know what's going on, and knowing that is a big help when it comes to drafts.
I mean, I've definitely gone the extra buck for a Met. I mean, why not? It's supposed to be fun fantasy. Obviously not crazy, not to cripple my team. I'm a good, disciplined fantasy manager. But sure, if it's all being equal, take the Met. Root for your hometown team. Why not? I'll say to sort of go on what you were saying is, especially when playing home leagues, and I'll say home leagues is a big difference. home leagues, they take Mets and Yankees a lot more. We'll be playing a New York home league, and they value those players more. And we know this because, we'll sometimes throw out a player who's maybe not minus $4 according to our numbers, and you throw him out for a buck, and he'll go for 10, even though we have him worth minus 4. And if you want to get money off the board, there's no quicker way to get money from Mets and Yankees, right? And if you're throwing out a player in an auction in a home league, there's no better way to get money off the board for the overprice to go for the home players, right? You can, you've already got a first baseman. I guess you can go for a first baseman, but generally you want guys who are overpriced, who are going to be much higher than ADP, and Mets and Yankees work. So if there's a $2 player out there, we'll throw him out for a buck. We'll go for 17. Who knows? Definitely the right strategy for playing home leagues, I think, if you're in a spot where you have to nominate and you want to nominate to get money off the board. Remember, we've talked about to use your nominations. You don't always want to do that. You want to go actually more for the players you want. But if you are in the spot to get money off the board, picking the home team will work. And actually, it sometimes works in NFBC leagues if you're drafting in a city. If you're in New York and you're drafting, there's going to be more Mets fans just because of proximity. That does work. Not as well as in home leagues, but it certainly does. Do you agree with that, Sarah?
I tend to think that the smarter the room is, the less impact that you can get from people's fandom. And I don't know if that's just a bias on my part in how I read rooms and play. But like when I play in some of these industry leagues, like I might know who somebody's favorite team is, but I just really don't think they're going to overpay for them. But that said, I think that in a home league for sure, there have been times where I have thrown out. So, for example, the fantasy football league that I play in is an auction fantasy football league, and I'll throw out Dallas Cowboys in that league. I am a Cowboys fan, but I will not overpay for them. However, half the league is Cowboys fans. So I'll throw out Cowboys and get just like huge run-ups on the costs to get people's budget down.
Yeah.
I think the exact same thing works in fantasy baseball, especially if you know that there's I have a fantasy baseball home league that I've been in. Gosh, it's probably my longest league. I think I've been in it for 10 or 12 years. That league has a ton of Dodgers fans in it. And so you can just get a lot of money off the board real fast by throwing out the Dodgers.
Yeah. I will say, though, that I do find it true in expert leagues. I mean, you draft with Jason Collette, he's going to have a disproportionate number of Rays. And it might be because he knows them more and maybe he knows what's a good buy, but he will have more Rays. I know Ryan Hallam's going to have Cardinals on there. I mean, he was wearing a Paul Goldschmidt jersey coming into labor. I threw out Paul Goldschmidt, and he bought Paul Goldschmidt. It's not a coincidence. I think that even the best of us, experts and all that, do have a slight bias in drafts to pick them. And if you know that, you can't exploit it in leagues by making them go the extra dollar.
Yes.
I agree with you on that, but I will say, just like on the Jason Collette front, that may be also because I think he probably has more confidence in his knowledge of how they deploy platoons than maybe some other players do. So I find myself shying away from Rays because I don't have I obviously have what I can read and what I can see on Roster Resource and what I can see in the box scores and what I can see when I watch the Rays, but I don't have as good of a handle on all of their platoon risks as somebody who watches that team every day. And I imagine that Jason Collette, as a fan of that team, sees those movements better.
You're saying that's special for the Rays?
Well,
because the Rays are different?
No, I'm saying that's true for every team, but I'm saying with the Rays in particular, that is a team where I think you could get an edge by knowing that team very well because they are so good. I think it's also true for the Brewers, by the way. So it would not surprise me if DVR has a similar sort of edge in the drafts that he does, because knowing a team that is functionally relying on platoons because they don't spend a lot of money, a lot of drafters and a lot of high stakes players and a lot of industry drafters will shy away from those players who are like, it's a platoon risk, I want playing time. But if you are confident that you know how those platoons are going to operate and you are good at streaming, I think you'd be more willing to take those guys.
I'm playing in a league against DVR, Tout Wars Champions League, and let's see who he has from Milwaukee. He's got William Contreras. He's also got Aaron Ashby. Well, that's a good example that sort of lies in what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
He's got Kyle Harrison.
Knowing playing time and knowing the situations a little more in detail, yes.
Aaron Ashby is actually the perfect example right there. He's literally the guy that you're speaking to. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I guess let's just close with, what are maybe some other advantages or disadvantages. I mean, I think it's an advantage when you have good knowledge of your team to know what the lineup situation is. I mean, you can definitely extract the right playing time if you know, this guy, he's going to be, he's coming up, he's going to be the everyday right fielder. I mean, the Mets, Carson Benj, if you watch the Mets, if you follow the Mets, you're a Mets fan, you knew Carson Benj was going to be it. And Ruven, I think you've gotten him in 1 or 2 leagues because you knew of that and you said, oh, yeah, nope, he's going to be the right fielder. He's going to get the playing time. He's going to be bumpy, but, we're going to stick with him.
Yeah, I specifically wanted him on at least one of my teams because I knew he may have had some bumps in the road in the very beginning of the season, but he was going to get the playing time. He was their right fielder. He was supposed to be their number 9 hitter, and don't worry about it because everyone else is going to produce, which hasn't happened. But in any event, he was the guy that I wanted, but it could be a disadvantage also because there was 1 week this year that Mark Vientos went off, and he had a great week, and I needed a third baseman. So I spent a huge amount of fab on him, hoping that this is his turnaround. This is going to be his back to his breakout season. And a week later, I'm dropping him because he's back to what he was. Sometimes all this you can watch your own team and you have this hope in your mind thinking, okay, they're going to do well because I want them to do well. And then you pick up a player because you think that. And like I mentioned before, it's just smoke and mirrors, just the fact that you are hoping something to happen into reality when it doesn't really happen.
All right, let's do some buy, sell, hold drops. And to start this, it's the Injury Gurus Trivia of the Week.
All right, so we're going to start with the hot players. And the Trivia of the Week is this. There are 6 players who are batting over 400 with 3 or more home runs so far this month. Who are they?
Say it again.
There are 6 players who are batting over 400 with more than 3 home runs this month in June so far for 2 weeks. Who are they?
Well, I'm going to guess Matt Chapman.
Matt Chapman is one of them. Yes, we're going to be talking about him. So that was a good guess.
Well, I don't know if today counts, but
Today
what's
doesn't count.
PCA doing right now?
Today does not count, so I can't add him in, but he's very close. But Sarah, you did mention a guy who's on a lot of your teams also who has done this so far this month.
Oh, interesting. Jordan.
Yes, Jordan is another one.
Jordan's on another level right now.
Yes.
Ohtani
has done it this month so far. He started heating up before he had his knee injury.
What about?
Think about the biggest fab pickups this past week.
Or
one of them.
Well, I've got another guy.
Eldridge.
Yes, Bryce Eldridge.
Oh, nice.
He's
Good call.
There are 2 more. One is a Brewer and one is a Royal.
Jackson Churio's doing it. I have one team.
Jackson Churio, and there's a Royal who's done it so far this month.
Royal. The Royal is stumping me. I was gonna guess somebody else because I also have Hunter Goodman on my team, and I know he's gone off on the home run front.
Mr. Caglione.
Jack Caglione.
Jack Caglione has done that. So the reason why I bring this up is bring up Matt Chapman. In the 12 games so far, as of I think it was yesterday, he has a 421 average with 5 home runs. He had 1 home run coming into the month. Just those 5 home runs puts him back on pace for the 20 home runs for the rest of the year. So, Sarah, is he a guy to buy? Is he a guy to sell because he's hot right now? Or is he a guy just to hold?
And by the way, didn't you almost sell him to me a couple weeks ago?
Yes, I did, and thank God I didn't.
Jack Caglione?
No, Matt Chapman.
Matt Chapman. We're going to talk about... sorry, I misheard who we were talking about.
That was Matt Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman. I think Chapman is a guy to hold on right now, and I would buy him in leagues that I was in. So I actually just saw a bunch of Chapman. The Giants just played the Cubs. He is scorching the ball at the moment. And one of the things that is a little bit different in his stats since I ran May 15th start date, but in the first part of the season, he had a hard hit rate of 37.3% through May 15th. And then since May 15th, that hard hit rate's been 45.2%. He's also barreling the ball more during that time period. So he went from a 7% barrel rate on the start of over the entire season. But in that window since the 15th of May, he's got a 9.5% barrel rate. I will say that his BABIP is running a tiny bit hot, but it's not so terribly different than his career rate. He's got a 333 BABIP in the last month, and he has a 293 career BABIP. I think that when Chapman is scorching the ball and he's hitting it in the air, which both his barrel rate and his hard hit rate seem to say right now, he's hardly anybody can hit the ball with authority like he can, and he's got a track record of doing it. So I'm in on Chapman, and I would absolutely hold him if I had him and buy him if I could.
I think he's a sell. I mean, yes, he's batting 300 for the 400 for the month so far, and last 30 days about 300. But I mean, looking at the ATC projections, rest of season 239 with 12 homers, career low barrel rate this year. He plays at a ballpark that suppresses homers. I mean, he's certainly usable in almost all formats right now, but I think if people are holding on to what he could be and what he was, I think that you can get some name recognition. So I would actually sell. I think you can get something for him now.
Well, I'll break the tie. I'm going to either buy or hold. I'm going to go with Sarah here because of the fact that he's a perennial close to 20 home run hitter, and people who had him were nervous. Where's all that power? He's so low in home runs to start the season, but now he's literally back on track. And when you bought him at the draft or the auction, you weren't buying him for that 400 average. You weren't buying him for a 300 average. You had lowered expectations for that batting average. Maybe about 240, 250, which is perfectly fine. So all that extra average right now is extra gravy, and I think he would be a buy because it shows that his power's still there. It shows that he's not injured, and he's a guy that you could probably get cheap because people may be frustrated over the fact that how poorly he did over the first month and a half.
See, I was a big buy a month ago, which is why I'm like, hey, could I buy him off of you? But I think he's a sell now. I think he went the other way. He's certainly not this level. I mean, obviously, it all depends on what your league is given. He's certainly not a drop, right? You're not gonna get rid of him, but I think you can get something for him. All right, Jake Bauers. I mean, this looks like classic hot streak guy, but he is playing a lot better than he has. Like some of his underneath the surface stats are better. Very good walk rate, strikeout rate. That's trending up. Hitting the ball harder, barreling the ball more consistently. Some of his game is a little bit real. Some of them is not. I think he's a hold right now, Jake Bauers. I mean, he's been like a waiver wire fodder guy in 15-team leagues for the last couple of years, but I think he's definitely a guy that you're not dropping in 15-team leagues anymore. I think he's just a straight hold. What do you think, Sarah?
Ariel, I swear I'm not just trying to disagree with you today, but I think Jake Bauers is a sell for me at the moment, and it has more to do with his position on the Brewers and another guy on the Brewers who has been red hot recently, which, he sort of trades time a little bit in the outfield, a little bit at first base with Andrew Vaughn, and Andrew Vaughn has been heating up quite a bit. I look at Jake Bauers and I see two red flags that make me want to just turn whatever he has done so far into another player. The first is that his BABIP right now, since the 15th of May, is 347. His career mark is 282. So that's just a huge discrepancy in terms of how he is getting to what he is doing right now. He's also got two unsustainable stats in the hard hit and barrel rate category. So he's got a 60.7% hard hit rate right now and a 19.6% barrel rate. Neither of those look like the type of thing that is going to persist to me. And so given the playing time situation where Andrew Vaughn is heating up, the Brewers do like to deploy the hot hand at first base. I think Bauers is going to lose some playing time to Andrew Vaughn, and I don't think the numbers he's got right now are sustainable. So I would take what you can get for Bauers.
I mean, I think he's playing every day no matter what, if it's first base or outfield. So I think they're trying to get him at bats. By the way, I think it's good that we're disagreeing. This is better than just, you're right, Ariel,
Yeah. Well, let me just throw a tiny bit of cold water on the outfield front, because that is part of my opinion as well. The Brewers just extended Luis Lora, who is absolutely smoking hot in AAA, and they had to add him to the 40-man roster to do it. And I think he is their outfielder of the future. I mean, this kid is unbelievable. And so when Bauers was definitely going to play in the outfield, I'm with you. But if Bauers cools off, they have an extended Luis Lora. He's already on the 40-man. There's no reason not to call that kid up and see what he can do. And I just feel like they would. This is a team that wants to win a World Series. That is the monkey the Brewers are trying to get off their back, and you deploy anything you can in order to do that. So I think playing time in the outfield could become more scarce for Bauers if Laura gets a shot. And I also just think that when Andrew Vaughn's high, he's getting those first base at bats.
Well, this is your NL Central knowledge coming through. Ruvain, break the tie.
I think he's just a straight hold. I don't think he's a sell because I don't know how much you're going to actually get from him because people know all the stuff you just said, Sarah. They know he's usually a platoon guy, but now he's playing every day because he's very hot. You're not going to get that much from him because he will eventually go back into the platoon, but he is so hot right now that the Brewers actually played or they didn't start him, but they put Andrew Vaughn at third base twice in the last 2 weeks, which was very interesting because they wanted to get both bats in the lineup at the same time. So I think he's a hold, and you have to keep running with him because he's one of those guys that's already has 4 home runs during this month. He's 4 home runs, 13 RBIs in the first 2 weeks of this month. So I think you have to keep riding him. But even if you try to sell him, I don't think you're going to get that much from him. And I mean, if you need that flexibility, I guess you can, but I wouldn't spend too much on him.
All right, Ruvain, why don't you go first for this next one? Reed Detmers of the Angels.
Okay, Reed Detmers is very interesting to me. Since he blew up against the Athletics on May 19th and he gave up 8 runs, he's given up 5 runs in his last 26 innings with 36 strikeouts. He stopped throwing the sinker completely mid-May. He's throwing his fastball more than 10% of the time since then, since May 13th, and he's historically better in the second half than the first half. For me, he is a buy if you could trade for him. I think he's the guy to get. I think his ERA and whip are actually inflated a little bit because of that 8 runs that he did give up against the Athletics. So for me, Reed Detmers is a definite hold and definite buy.
Okay, Sarah?
He's a hold for me. I don't know if I'm buying him, but I mean, if I had the opportunity, depending on the cost, if he was on the waiver wire, I'm obviously definitely picking him up, but he's probably not on your waiver wire. I think that Reed Detmers, for all the reasons that Ruvain just said, I think that the second half performances, I agree 100% that the surface stats are inflated a little bit by that terrible start against the Athletics. And I also think that Reed Detmers has been one of those guys, he's always been a competent streamer. So if he's a guy that you can sort of leave in your lineup more frequently, that's a plus. Pitching is so hard to come by right now with all of the injuries. So I'm a hold on Reed Detmers.
Okay, so he was available in one of our 10-team leagues this week. We were low on fab, and we're doing something else, so we didn't buy him, but we definitely placed a bid on him. I think Reed Detmers is a buy. I think that he's the kind of guy whose cost is low enough, because remember, he's sort of on the edge in a 10-team league, or he was. Obviously, if you're in mono league, you're obviously having him already. But I think he's a buy. I think he's got breakout potential. He's just 26. I mean, he's pitching to a 30% strikeout rate, and he's now done this 2 years in a row. He's got a 327 Sierra, 287 FIP. The only thing is that he's not going to win a lot of games. The Angels, frankly, they stink. Got 2 wins on the year. But, I mean, this is a breakout potential candidate, and it's low enough a cost that it's probably worth paying for. Like, it's not like you're paying a third-round price for a guy. You're paying somebody low on the rise, but who could have potential and out-earn that. He's certainly pitching like that over the last couple of weeks. So for me, I think Detmers is the right guy to buy right now.
Well, let's do this. You said that Jake Bauers was a hold. Would you trade Jake Bauers for Reed Detmers?
Yeah, I'd take Reed Detmers over Bauers. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take Detmers over Bauers too.
Okay. Here's your answer.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything there. Okay, let's start with Sarah. Foster Griffin of the Nationals. Buy, sell, hold. Foster Griffin.
Yeah, I think I'm going to hold Foster Griffin at the moment, although I do think there's some red flags in this profile. There's some cause for concern in May against both the Mets and the Reds. So this is, like he's given up quite a few runs in the near past, but he's been excellent in his recent starts. The thing that I like most about Foster Griffin is he's one of these guys who just has a very, very deep arsenal, and I think that can pencil over a lot of mistakes because he has options, right? So he's got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got 7 pitches that he's throwing 5% of the time, or more. He's doing pretty good on the location front. He's actually, his best skill right now is avoiding walks, which when you have a deep arsenal like that, that's sort of one of my things that I look at to see, is this guy having trouble locating those pitches? And he really doesn't seem to be at the moment. I will say it has the same problem you just mentioned with Reed Detmers, which is where the wind's going to come from for Foster Griffin. And so I worry about that a little bit, but the ERA looks sustainable. And the last thing I'll say here is, this 1.09 whip he's put up. I think that one of the stats that we don't look at with some of these streamer guys enough is their whip, because you can get some real whip killers in this type of range of pitcher. But anytime I see a guy who's putting up numbers like this, getting results like this, and is able to keep their whip under 1.2, I'm interested. And so I'm interested in Foster Griffin. I'm going to call him a hold.
I think he's got a lot of good and a lot of bad, and you're right on the whip there. I mean, the walk rate will keep his whip down, and to me, he's a streamer. I think that in the right matchup, why not? Go for the win only when they're playing there. Look, Washington's also overplaying, I think. He's got 7 wins. That kind of rate is going to go down. He's not all bad. And look, his Sierra is 3.78. That's okay. ATC has a going forward ERA of 4.27. I think he can actually beat that. I think he's closer to 4, maybe even sub 4. So there's a decent enough pitcher that he's useful. Nothing fantastic, but he's really a streamer. He's really a streamer. If you're in a 15-team mixed, you're not playing him every single week, but you're going to have him on the roster. I don't think you're dropping him right away. So I think he's in general a hold. Slight sell if somebody can, believe the 3.46 ERA and 1.09 whip and just believe it outright. But he's not a buy for me. So I'd say a hold to a slight sell. Ruben?
I'd say a hold to a buy on him. I guess he's technically a rookie this year. He's 30 years old, but he only had a total of 8 innings in over 2020 and 2022. In the last 3 years, he pitched in Tokyo, and his whip in Tokyo for 3 seasons there was 107, 105, and .95. So the fact that he has a 109 whip here, it just shows that he shows control, and he's able to control. And Sarah, you mentioned about he had the hiccups of 2 starts. He gave up 14 runs over those 2 starts. He gave up 15 runs over his 12 other starts this season. So knowing that, again, if you take those 2 starts out, I know we always say take those 2 starts out. You can't really take it out, but if you take them out, he's actually a pretty decent pitcher. But he runs into being a national, and nationals are actually decent this year. I mean, they're better than Mets, but that's not saying that much. But they're like a game and a half out of the wild card, and he's one of the reasons why. He's pitching very well. They're going to keep him in the rotation because of the way he's pitching, and I think that his cost to buy at this point or to try to trade for is very low because he's just an unknown commodity.
I like that we're having a lot of disagreement on the show today and giving a different perspective. It's pretty good. Okay, some Cold players. I'm going to start with Trey Turner. My first question, Sarah, is Trey Turner a Hall of Famer?
Oh, that's a real interesting. I was not expecting that
Yeah.
question. Give me 1 second, because I was looking a lot more at Trey Turner's surface stats over the recent future and a little less at whether or not he's a Hall of Famer.
47.5 career WAR.
He's borderline enough for me that I feel like I need some numbers here. Like I need some hit numbers. I need some. So let's see here.
293 career batting average.
Career WAR. That's great.
193 career home runs, and he's got 329 career stolen bases. 293 average.
So the number I'm looking at, though, that has kind of fallen a little short for me here is 1,594 hits. And I feel like he has to do this for longer in order to get that number closer to 2,000 for me. In order to be a Hall of Famer. Now he's also, only 32 years old. He's about to turn 33, and we shouldn't feel like he's not going to get those last 5,000, those last 500, 600 hits and push that well over 2,000. I do think this is questionable, though, and the reason I think it's questionable is because of what I was looking at in some of his numbers during this cold stretch. And the thing that I'm worried about here is he's whiffing on like 41.7% of the off-speed pitches that he sees right now. That is cause for concern. And my question is more, is he in between and making an adjustment, and he's going to come back and be the Trey Turner of old? Or is he hurt, or is something wrong, and that is not a thing that is going to fix itself? His sprint speed is still in the 99th percentile this season, so that doesn't really scream injury to me, which makes me wonder why he is suddenly struggling against off-speed stuff that he hasn't struggled with historically as much in his career. I'm going to say I think he is a borderline case Hall of Famer, probably gets there, but not on the first ballot. And I'm going to say that at this moment in time, you invested a lot of draft capital in order to get Trey Turner. I'd like to say you can hold him, but you might be in a roster situation where you are trying to sell Trey Turner and see what you can get for him and replace him with somebody else, because it doesn't look like he's going to bust out. There's nothing in the profile that I saw that I was like, oh, he's going to bust out of it very soon.
I mean, he's still showing the power speed blend. He's got 7 homers, 14 stolen bases this year, which is fine for Roto. I mean, he's in a 15-team context. He's still an $11 player year to date, which is, I mean, it's not his usual, but he's still a top 15. He's been a top 15, let's say, shortstop. Yeah, but he's looked. It looks like a bad year for him. I think that he is a Hall of Famer, or at least I think he will get in. He's borderline, won't get in first ballot, but he'll make its way. You know, well, let's do this. You know, let's do who'd you rather? Would you rather have rest of season Trey Turner or Jeremy Pena?
I think I would rather have. God,
I'd rather have Trey
now.
Turner because Jeremy Pena is always an injury risk.
I think I agree with that, but I think that's closer than I thought it would be, and the fact that I'm hesitant makes me nervous. So the other two stats in Trey Turner's profile that really jumped out at me as question marks: 23% strikeout rate this year. That's the highest strikeout rate that he has had since he was called up in 2015, when he put up a 27% strikeout rate over 44 plate appearances. And the hard hit rate is down 4%. So he's back in the 38% hard hit rate territory. I think I might feel better about Pena turning it around, because I can't tell what's wrong with Trey Turner.
Okay, I think Turner's a buy low here. I think that he has the down half a year. I mean, this is where you buy. If it's injury related, well, there you go. That's the reason. But I think, you know, Hall of Fame type people do Hall of Fame things, and I think he will turn it around, and I think I'd pay for it. Like, would you rather have rest of season Mookie Betts or Trey Turner?
Mookie Betts, for the team context alone.
Yes.
What about C.J. Abrams?
I think C.J. Abrams is a killer. I've got C.J. Abrams in a couple of places, and I actually think he's just been a late bloomer who is having a great season. I would take C.J. Abrams over Trey Turner.
I would take C.J. Abrams because he'll probably get you more stolen bases also.
Yeah, I'll take Abrams there. Betts, I think I'd rather take Turner than Betts.
Those are close, though, and that's
close.
Interesting.
What about Francisco Lindor, who's due to come back in a couple weeks?
I think I'd take Francisco Lindor. But again, I'm also speaking to our earlier theme of bias and what you want in the world. I really need hamate injuries to just not be a thing that linger all that much right now.
So this is really the range he's in. It's a little bit buy low.
I mean, Trey Turner, he's hitting fly balls at a higher rate, but he's also got his lowest home run to fly ball rate this year. He's got the lowest BABIP of his career, so something's going to change. But the thing is, he has 2 home runs since May 20th with 3, and in June he's batting .217 with 3 stolen bases and no home runs. I mean, is he just off and he has to try to figure it out? I mean, is he the type of guy where, you know, is he going to make the All-Star team? I don't think he's going to make the All-Star team. If he doesn't make the All-Star team, he can, well, if the fans vote him in, that's a different story. But if he doesn't make the All-Star team, he can go home. He can figure out what's wrong with him, and he can turn around and have a great second half of the season, especially he's playing in Philadelphia. It's going to be a hot summer. And if it's going to be a hot summer and those fly balls start getting a little more lucky and they start going out a little bit more, then you have the Trey Turner of old again.
All right, for this next one, I want to do a who'd you rather. Rafael Devers. I mean, I have a lot of shares of Rafael Devers. I know I knew before the season he wasn't going to be as advertised, but had hope and still bought him at a reasonable discount. But here's a who'd you rather for Rafael Devers. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Would you rather have Rafael Devers or Sal Stewart?
Oh, Sal Stewart.
Stewart.
I'm so into Sal Stewart.
Stewart.
Sal Stewart is, sorry, Ruben, I did not mean to cut you off, but like Sal Stewart is my guy. One of our fantasy baseball friends, I think it's Ryan Bloomfeld, posts a thing every year that's like, there's always some guy who's in the middle rounds who puts up a first round value. Who's it going to be this year? And Sal Stewart is my pick for that. I believe in him. Fundamentally, I think what he flashed at the start of the season is the real deal, and I think he's in a little bit of an adjustment period, but I Sal Stewart over Rafael Devers.
Agree.
Another NL Central guy. All right, what about Josh Naylor?
Devers.
Naylor.
I'll take Naylor in this case. Yandy Diaz.
Yandy.
They're such different players. I think I'd take Yandy.
Yandy.
I'll take Yandy this year. What about Alec Burleson?
Burleson.
Love Burleson.
And part of that, I actually think Burleson is criminal. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to just go with the NL Central guys, although I am noticing a theme. I think Burleson's been underrated for a handful of years now. He was one of my favorite players.
Yes, agreed.
I got him on several teams this year.
Yeah, and without Wilson Contreras standing in the way of his playing time, he's just been outstanding.
Oh. And by the way, if you bought him, you made a lot of money on him this year, Burleson.
Absolutely.
Definitely. What about Wilson Contreras, the first baseman of Boston?
So I would take Wilson Contreras over Rafael Devers now because I have two really big concerns about Rafael Devers. The first is that his strikeout rate is over 30%. I don't know what is going on with that. That is bonkers. He has not put up a strikeout rate over 30% ever in his career. His walk rate is half of what it was last season. Last season, he walked 15.4% of the time. This season, he's walking 7.5% of the time. When I watch him at the plate, he does not look like the slugger he was in Boston. I know park effects like Boston was helping him a lot, but I always thought it was more on the BABIP side than anything else. He fell off a cliff going to San Francisco.
Okay, so he obviously is not making the money back that he made, so he's a sell, Rafael Devers, in that sense. But I want to go on. How about your Cubs, Michael Busch? Who would you rather have, Michael Busch or Rafael Devers?
Michael Busch, I actually wrote a piece today making the case that Michael Busch should be an all-star just based on how much he's heated up since a really slow March and April. And I think that Michael Busch is that first month and change was really an anomaly for him. Michael Busch is crushing the ball right now.
And I agree with you. And the thing is, you're mentioning all these first basemen. I looked at the numbers. When Devers plays first base, he's had 215 at-bats. He has 6 home runs. When he DHs, he's had 63 at-bats, and he has 3 home runs. I think playing first base, I think that may be affecting him a little bit. Maybe more of a mental thing. I mean, he's batting 143 in June, but he seems to hit better when he doesn't have to play the field, when he doesn't have to think about what he's doing in the field.
I mean, so far, other than Josh Naylor, who Ruben and I would take, so far he's pretty much sunk below these guys. I'm glad we're doing a lot of first basemen here. Would you rather have Devers or Christian Walker?
Walker.
That's tougher, but the fact that is tougher is a problem. Like, you did not draft or take Devers in your auction thinking you were getting Christian Walker.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you rather have Vinny P., friend of the podcast, Vinny P.?
I think I go Devers here only because Vinny P has a hamate issue and he's going to be sidelined now for a little bit of time. So I think I go Devers just because he's healthy, and I know that the hamate issue for Devers doesn't have a hamate issue and it's not going to affect his power.
I think we're pretty much in the range where he should be now. I mean, guys below him would be something like Miguel Vargas, Jonathan Aranda. I think those are squarely below Rafael Devers. Right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right, so he's pretty much at this level. We're talking like in line with Christian Walker, Vinny Pasquantino. So yeah, he's sunk. I think he's a sell because I don't see him bouncing back past any of the guys we mentioned above. And if anybody thinks so, then let them buy him. Do you agree?
I think that's right.
Yes,
okay.
I agree too.
Well, there you go. And we did a lot of first basemen there. That was awesome. Let's go. I did not mention him in comparison to Trey Turner, but Zach Nato is another guy for. He's cold. I mean, he is getting the power speed blend. He's got 13 homers, 11 steals, $19 player, a 223 batting average. Is this just a buy low while his batting average is a little bit lower than expected, and he really is? We're talking like a top 5 shortstop here.
I'm a little concerned about Neto's strikeout rate, but everything else looks I'm a little concerned about Neto's strikeout rate. I'm also concerned that his hard hit rate is down about 10% off last year. But there's a lot of other things that are fine, and his walk rate is actually way up right now. So Neto is the one guy here who I would buy, and I am interested in seeing what he can do. He's put up such good numbers in the last couple of seasons. I don't know that I think he's a top 5 shortstop, but I think I would buy him I would buy the dip right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that concerned with the strikeout rate because that's what he is. To me, he reminds me profile-wise like Chris B. Young, the guy who would be like 20-20, 220 average, but still worth like $20 in Roto, which is doing right now.
Well, I will say the strikeout rate right now for Neto is like 31%. So that does bother me a little bit, but I agree with you on the comp.
Well, Zach Neto last year, first half of last year, batted .279, 15 homers, 17 stolen bases. Second half of last year, this is similar. Second half of last year, he batted .222, 11 homers, 9 stolen bases. This year so far, .228, 13 homers, 11 stolen bases. So he's basically repeating the second half of last year, which is a little bit concerning because people bought him because of the overall numbers. You see that he had all those homers and all those stolen bases, and with a better batting average because he did hit for a high batting average the first part of last year. But he's repeating what he did the end of last year, so I'm a little bit concerned. He's a hold just because he will get you the counting stats, but I mean, he's playing on a team that's not great. He's playing on a team that's the lineup is not that great. If he gets traded away, which I don't think he will be, if he gets traded away, then he's a definite buy for me because I think he'll flourish somewhere else. But I think the Angel aura is pulling him down.
Yeah, the low RBIs, low runs because of a bad team, that will persist. And, I mean, the ballpark does suppress homers, so there's a little bit of a cap. But yeah, to me, he's a straight hold. I don't see myself buying or selling him. You have him, you play him. He's a top 7 shortstop at the least, so you're just going to hold him, right?
Yeah, I would absolutely hold him, but I do think I'm going to buy because looking at the guys on the Fangraphs Player Rater who are in that top 10 shortstop range. There look like a couple of guys who are going to fall off, and Neto looks like a guy who could still rise in that top 10.
Yeah, slight buy.
And he has the pedigree, too. So,
yeah, he's a hold to a slight buy. Okay, Kyle Bradish. I didn't buy any of Bradish because I don't believe that he'd stay healthy all year. He's been healthy so far. He's exceeded the last 2 years innings pitched combined this year so far, but he's blown up the last 2 starts. I think that's a red flag. Also, his whip is god-awful. He's got a 1.57 whip. ERA 4.3, although that is from his last 2 starts. It's sub-4, the ERA, if you don't count the last 2 starts. His K rate is down. It used to be 30s. Now it's like 23. His walk rate is up to 12% this year. He's got some name value, so to me, he's a classic sell. I don't want anything to do with Bradish, and if I can get anything, I would. I mean, I don't own him, so I can't sell him personally, but if I had him, my advice to you folks is to sell. Sarah, do you agree?
I have no Bradish. Like you said, the injuries have been a red flag for me with him, and looking at this, I would definitely not be buying Bradish. That whip is way over that 1.2 mark I was discussing earlier. He has always been one of those guys, though, I think you nailed it, where other people like him a lot more than I do. So if by some chance I had him for some reason, I would be looking for someone to trade me anything for him, and I would be trying to go some other direction. I just can't tell what is wrong with him this season, and the difference between, last season he put up a 2.53, well, limited, admittedly, because of the injuries. So like the numbers he's got are all extremely limited until you go back to 2023. And this year, his FIP and his ERA and his XFIP and everything is like right in line. He looks like a mid-4s ERA pitcher who has a walk problem this season. And that just is, I'm out. Like, I'm just totally out. If I can get somebody to trade me something for him, great. Otherwise, he's on my bench until I have to drop him.
3 for 3, Ruben?
Yes, sell as soon as possible. His last 8 innings, 6 walks, 8 strikeouts, 4 home runs, and 10 runs. I hope he's not injured, because you mentioned about the innings. He's at close to 70 innings right now, or something like that, or 73 innings. The last time he threw that many was in 2023. He's on pace for 170 innings. If you think you're gonna get Kyle Bradish to pitch 170 innings and lower the ERA and WHIP that he has now, I got a bridge to sell you, so I'm willing to sell Kyle Bradish.
I mean, this would have been a perfect Kershaw. Buy him, use him for 2 months, sell him right away. I remember Sierra used to do that. Used to buy Kershaw and then just sell him a month or two into the season. Yeah.
No, I would draft Kershaw or buy him in an auction every single year, and I would get the good Kershaw, and then I would be like, who wants my surplus Kershaw, and trade him for whatever. Usually, incidentally, a guy like a Trey Turner or something, probably not gonna get that for Bradish, but to be clear, but like usually like somebody who is going to be that, oh, he's really fallen off a cliff infielder who I know is going to come up big in the second half.
Yeah. All right, we've got a couple more players. Ruvain has given me an injury category, so we'll ask Ruvain's advice on some of these as well. What do you think about buy, sell, hold for Ronald Acuna Jr.? These are tough because these also involve injury, but Ruvain, what is Acuna's status, and what are you doing with him?
Acuna's status is that he has another leg injury, which goes along with his career. He's got a hamstring issue. They said he's going to be out for at least 10 days. In June, he's only been batting .240 with 3 stolen bases, 2 caught stealings, and no home runs since May. I mean, you can, if you sell him at this point, yes, he's injured, but you can sell him at this point because of his name. Just his name alone, you can get a lot of value out of him. So I think he's a guy, if you really want to hold on, the stolen bases, he has such a history of leg problems. Now, he only has 7 home runs. He's not getting the home runs. He's not getting, the stolen bases may go away just because they want to keep him on the field in general. To me, he's a sell. Just because number one, he can't stay on the field. Number two, one of his main aspects of being on the field is the stolen bases, and if he keeps getting leg problems, he may be more hesitant stealing.
I would trade him right now for either Andy Pages or Michael Harris. You agree, Sarah?
Yes. 100. Yes. No, straight up yes. I had to think about Pajes for a second. But
Harris for sure.
Harris has the same PCA profile that is like up and down. Sorry, PCA just hit for the cycle, so you caught me at a moment.
Oh, congrats to PCA. Yeah. Wonder where you got him. You're welcome.
He went home run, triple, double, single.
You're welcome. You're welcome for him, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, Mets fans.
What did we get? We got a month of Javier Baez.
Javier Baez and a broken gold necklace by home plate. Yeah, that's what we got. It was
diamonds, man. That was a diamond-studded whole necklace. Situation. But, Javi left his diamonds
with
in
trade
New York.
Thumbs down.
So, okay. Harris or Pajes? Yes. The problem with Ronald Acuna Jr., and I only have him on one team, I think the price you paid in draft capital or at the auction, you feel obligated to hold him.
It's called sunk cost.
And frankly, I just don't know what you're going to get. Like, I don't know what you're going to get later. The injuries have mounted so severely. And yes, he's come back from them before and been great. But like now you're looking at both his ACLs have been replaced and we've got this hamstring issue. I don't know how long we go until he is basically a DH a la Byron Buxton. I don't know, man.
I was about to actually say, would you rather have Byron Buxton or Acuna? And I think the answer is Buxton right now. Because Buxton is he healthy? Well, for today he is.
At this moment, right. I have to check. Is Byron Buxton healthy right now?
Well, how about this? Let's say Acuna comes off the IL in about 10 days. Let's say he comes off in 10 days. You have a trade offer, Trey Turner for Ronald Acuna Jr. Who wins that trade?
Little bit dependent on what I need.
Well, if you need steals, then you're going to go with Turner.
Because if I need steals, it's Turner, and if I need power, it's Acuna. But I'm not happy. I think that's a fair trade at this point. Like they're both kind of in the struggling superstar situation, and you could make that trade easily.
Acuna's a $15 to $20 player type trade.
Yeah, Acuna's team context is definitely better, but it's a $15 player trade for 2 guys that you were hoping put up $30 plus. And that is the problem.
Right. Right. It affects the whole. It affects your whole team because you base your whole team on having those guys as your cornerstones, and they're not your cornerstones.
Let's go to another Brave, Spencer Strider. Shut down for at least a month. I mean, uh, is, is he even a cut in an NFBC league?
Well, he's not in my current NFBC context, although he's close. I do have one pitcher who I'd cut before him, who I'm also holding on to at the moment as a injured pitcher. But I will say, look, Strider is, it's one of those situations where I guess it depends how hard it is to get pitching off the waiver wire in your league. Because if you've got pitchers available, so for example, the league I'm thinking of is Glarf, the Earth Leagues, and Strider just hit my IL. The guys who are available in that waiver wire tend to be Cater Montero. And so it's like, are you gonna hang on to Strider if you have the roster spot as long as you're not taking a zero, or are you gonna just churn in for guys like Montero over and over and over again? I think that's a really tough call. At the moment, I'm trying to hold Strider, so I will say for y'all what I'm doing in reality, which is hold him. But I would totally understand if you had to cut him, and if you don't have the roster spot in an NFBC situation, he's cut, and you have to get somebody else.
I agree. I think that if you're in a mono league, you're gonna hold him. If you're even in a 15-team mixed in with no IL in like the NFBC, I think if you drop him, nobody's picking him up next week. So if that's the case, he's a drop. He's certainly in a drop in a 12-team league with limited IL. He's just going to be out. He's shut down for at least a month. So that's a minimum past the All-Star break. And who knows? And even if he comes back, what's he going to be? He's got a 5.31 ERA, 1.36 WHIP, 12% walk rate. His K rate has been okay, not great, but good, 28%. I mean, it's just a high strikeout guy. Is this not something you can get off the waiver wire and stream? I don't see the advantage right now to holding him.
Cut your losses with him now.
Yeah.
He had the MRI done. It didn't show any structural damage. It showed inflammation, and that's it. Sometimes that's worse than actually seeing something because you don't know what he's dealing with. He's being shut down until he gets another MRI in a month, which means they still may see something in a month, which is even worse. Now, if you look at his velocity on May 9th, his fastball velocity was at 96.4. His last two starts, fastball velocity was 94.8 and 93.7 in his last start. That is with an ERA you mentioned 5.31, 1.36. He's not a guy you're keeping him only because of his name and because of what he could be. What he is right now is expendable.
Well, you should.
Well, y'all are talking me into dropping Spencer Strider, but I got to see who the replacement is before I do that. The velo has been extremely concerning.
That along with that and the fact that you can use that slot as a streamer. Sometimes the streamers can have more value than Strider. I mean, you're having Strider, you're getting a 5 ERA. He's killing your ERA anyway.
So, Ruben, this wasn't on the list, but what are you doing with Cole Reagans?
He's another one. It's just so hard to. He's a little bit on the younger side. I was never a big Cole Reagans guy to begin with. He's also he just can't break the injury bug, and the fact that he had a setback recently. He's scheduled for more testing. He woke up last Friday not feeling well with his arm wise. What does that mean? He's got elbow impingement already. I'm just concerned about him. I don't know how many more innings he's going to pitch the rest of the year. He's only had 8 starts the entire season. And even, I mean, his ERA is not as bad. But at the same point, I don't know. For me, I'd rather hold on to Reagans than I would hold on to Strider. I'd rather trade Strider and get him off my team completely. Reagans, there's still a glimmer of hope, but I don't know how much longer I can tolerate him as an empty bench position on an NFBC team.
Yeah, that's probably it. Let's talk about Giancarlo Stanton. Over under 9 homers for the rest of the season, Sarah.
Oh man, I am going to say over.
Over.
But I had to think about it. Well, I mean, he is always hurt, but he's also one of these guys who can put up 9 home runs in less than a month if he's healthy. So I don't need him to be healthy for the whole season. I need him to be healthy for a month to get to 10 home runs. So I do think he gets 10 more home runs, but I don't think I want him on any of my teams. And I certainly would be trading him if I could, which you probably can't, and dropping him if I had him.
I mean, they gave him a bag of Doritos and he couldn't open it.
Yeah, but that's not his injury now. He's got a calf
Yeah,
besides
it's
his
the calf.
elbows. He's got a calf and he had a setback. He's only had 3 home runs in 24 games played. He's missed 47 games so far. But he's in a situation where, similar to any type of Dodger or in Yankee, when they're saving this guy, they want him to be ready for the playoffs. So the fact that you have the over for 9 home runs, I'm going to take the under just because the Yankees are going to make sure that he's healthy because he is a playoff performer. The Yankees are going to make the playoffs and they want him to be healthy, so he may suffer for your team for the rest of the season just because he's not going to get to those home runs. But at the same point, the Yankees want him ready for October, and that's their goal.
Is he going to play any outfield now that Aaron Judge is on the shelf?
Absolutely not.
God, no.
I mean,
with a calf injury?
No, he's not even in the Byron Buxton, Ronald Acuna Jr. tier of like playing outfield.
By the way, Ariel, you asked before about Hall of Fame. Is Stanton a Hall of Famer?
That's a great question.
If memory serves me correctly, I would say no. What is his WAR?
He's got 456 home runs, 44.7 FWAR.
Close.
It's border. I think it's borderline. I think it's very borderline. If he plays another couple seasons and he gets close to the 500 mark, a little closer, then I'd say yes.
Career 258 batting average. I think Trey Turner has a better chance getting in.
Well, how many people have hit 500 home runs that are not in the Hall of Fame that are not accused of steroids?
Mark McGwire. Oh yeah.
That are not accused of steroids. So
There's not that many. It's 500 seems
True.
to get you in.
Maybe if Stanton took steroids, he wouldn't get hurt as much. I don't know. You never know.
He's not going to get to 500 though. He's at 456. He's not going to get there.
Man, he hits so many home runs in batches when he can, though.
He needed 2 more years like he did last year, but I don't think he's getting there. I think he's got 1 more year of the rest of the year. He'll have like 7 homers, and the next year he'll have like 10, and that'll be it.
You might be right. You might be right.
He's under contract for next year with a club option for the year after. So
I don't think they'll exercise the gigantic club option. They'll negotiate.
No,
But it'll put it this way: if he does get to 500, he'll get in. I'll tell you that. But I don't think he'll get to 500. Yeah. All right. Well, time for the injury report, Ruvain. I'm sure you've got a lot of stuff to say. Go for it.
Well, since we were talking about the NL Central before, we'll start with the NL Central. Ellie De La Cruz could be cleared to go on a rehab assignment as soon as this weekend for a strained right hamstring. He could return by June 22nd. Brandon Woodruff should have only 1 more rehab start before returning from a shoulder injury. He could return June 21st. Christian Scott of the Mets, a guy who was picked up recently on a lot of waiver wires, has right hip impingement. He's on the IL. He is, quote, the injury is, quote, not believed to be serious, end quote. Whatever that means. He could return by June 27th, but I don't think you want any of his replacements, which include Sean Manaea or David Peterson. Please stay away from those guys. Austin Wells, a Yankee, could return this weekend from cervical headaches. Aaron Boone said today that he will need a rehab assignment, but he could return as early as June 19th. And we'll finish in the NL Central. Emilio Pagan continues to throw bullpen sessions coming back from a grade 2 hamstring strain. He could be activated as early as June 26th.
All right. Well, fantastic show. Got some good insight on some of our personal lives and baseball. And we did a lot of great player analysis. We did some great shortstops and first basemen and a lot of fun on the way. Sara, always a pleasure having you. Sara Sanchez, everyone. Why don't you tell everybody where we can see all your work?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. You can find my Cubs coverage at bleedcubbyblue.com. It's the SB Nation Cubs site. And if you are a fantasy baseball type, I'm covering the NL Central with the Playing Time Tomorrow column over at Baseball HQ that drops every Friday.
Amazing stuff. Ruvain, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter X at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet out these injury updates as they come and the next man up.
All right, I'm Ariel Cohen over at Fangraphs, Rotoballer, ATCNY on Twitter X, and right here on the Beat the Shift podcast. All right, once again, thank you so much to Sara Sanchez And from all of us here at Beat the Shift, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.